Hi. So this is a show about stories and telling stories about stories. I just really like telling stories, basically. And my first story will be about Jane Austen's Persuasion, which is a book I think that more people should read. It's people know about Emma, they know about Pride and Prejudice because they're both really great books. And they've been turned into really great movies. Pride and Prejudice has, a lot of famous ones. Persuasion has like one movie. It's like 2 hours, and which is a mistake because all Jane Austen movies should be 12 hours. But Persuasion is her best, in my opinion. Persuasion is Jane Austen's last book, and it's really her greatest. It kind of takes in everything that she's learned from writing, and it kind of also takes in what she herself is experienced in her life. So the whole story of Persuasion, which is why I like doing this, is as follows. Anne Elliot, when she's younger, meets this soldier guy. And they're in love, but they're both very young. And soldier guy does not have many prospects, which means he doesn't have a lot of no, he's in the Navy. Navy guy. He's in the Navy. And back then in the Navy, you had to be an officer in order to actually make any money. And in order to make money, you actually had to capture ships. And when you captured ships, they would split the booty. And the people who were officers got a bigger cut of that. So that's how that worked out. And so he was young, he didn't have a lot of prospects, he didn't have a lot of money, but they loved each other. No, that should be enough. They thought it was enough. It was not enough for all of her relatives, for all of Anne's relatives. It's not a very good one for a heroine. Essie. It's a good color. For all of Anne's relatives. It wasn't enough. So they persuaded, yeah. Here's your title. They persuaded her to say no. Now, the thing is, actually, that was probably the right decision to make. They wouldn't have had a nice life. He would have been at sea all the time, not making a lot of money. It wouldn't have been keeping up with the lifestyle to which she was already kind of accustomed. She was the daughter of a minor nobility, who, by the way, is hilariously a jackass. But, that's not the point. Not the point. Whereas this guy, not much. All they had was love. But that doesn't matter. So actually, it was the right decision. But she was incredibly sad about this, because she had to say no. And he was incredibly pissy about this, because of course he didn't like the idea that she was persuaded against marrying him, because strangely he wanted to marry her. So away he went. And she spends time being miserable. Alright, so then years pass. Years and years and years. Like 7 or something like that. And the bloom of youth fades. Because, she was young when she got asked to be married. She was very pretty back then. Whatever that means. And then, time passes. Nobody else wants to marry her, I guess, because she lives out in the country. She doesn't meet a lot of people. And nobody else really. Yeah, she's like a younger sister, I think. Yeah, she's a younger sister. And her older sister. Is supposed to get married first anyway, and whatever. And that doesn't happen. So nobody marries her. Anyway, so she gets old in 7 years. So basically she's like 25 or something. 27. I don't know. Something. Old. I can't get over them. Sorry. Old. Yeah. And then guess who comes back to the neighborhood? Now, here's the thing. She freaks out. There's some new neighbors. Whatever. They have daughters. Whatever. And they are related to him. And she, of course, is a little concerned. She's like, but it's fine. Nothing will happen. He won't come. He visits. Yeah. And she's like, it'll be fine. Because he'll come and we'll be fine. We will be totally cool because we are adults. And adults can meet each other and it will not be issuey at all. At all. And so actually there's this amazing scene. It's like one of my favorite written pieces ever, like across history, where they meet again for the first time in years. And you get to hear her thoughts. And basically they're at, I don't know, some kind of party or whatever. Or, I don't know, a drawing room. And they see each other for the first time. And she stands up. He sees her. And she's like, hello. He's like, bow. And then he turns away to go do something else. And in her thoughts, she's like, there. We did it. It was fine. Totally fine. Totally fine. See? It was fine. Amazing. It's only later that she overhears, or she hears from somebody, that somebody says, "Oh, you knew Aunt Elliot, right?" And he's like, "Yeah, I knew her." And they're like, "Oh, don't you think that she looks pretty nice?" And he's like, "I guess. She's changed so much, I kind of wouldn't have recognized her." Which means that she used to look super pretty, and now she super doesn't. And she's like, bitch, how could you? Fine. Except she doesn't say that. What she actually says is, like that. But she's also still being very, like, it's fine. It's fine. Now, it turns out, we also hear, there's a lot of talking through the grapevine in this book, and in general, most of these books. We also find out that he's in the area to get married. He came back super rich. Because it turned out while he was at sea, he made officer, which nobody thought he would, and his ship captured a bunch of other ships, which nobody thought it would. So he made himself really, really rich, and everybody's fears from before, where it would have been a bad marriage, was totally false. So he's feeling kind of smug and, also, I hate everybody. And she's like, oh. she spends a lot of the first part of the book going like, hmm. So that's a bummer. We find out he's come back to the area to get married. He's just going to look for a girl, because that's what you do. We find out what his whole deal is for what he wants for a wife. He's very specific. And what his rules are is he doesn't really care about much of anything, provided they are very certain of their own opinions. For instance, they cannot be persuaded by other people. And did I mention they know their own minds? And that they can't be persuaded? And that's what I want. That's about it. That's all he really wants. And that's what we find out. Now, I mentioned the other neighbors from before that he's related to in some fashion. Because this was back in the day, and relations are, you know, who we marry. There's some daughters in there. 2, 3, 5. One of them is very, shall we say, forceful of opinion. One might even say she knows her own mind. Can't be persuaded by other people. He, of course, thinks this is the bee's knees. And he's like, well, clearly I should just marry that one. So he starts to, you know, be interested in that one. And he hangs out at the house. And of course, she was already friends with that family. And so they end up being in the same house a lot. And because of that, you know, they have to be in the same room. They end up, you know, having to talk to each other, because that would be super awkward to be in the same room and not talk to each other. So they have to actually be like, hello. He's like, hello. Pass the butter. All right. I like the weather. It is nice weather. Would you like the paper? Yes, I would. So, you know, there's that kind of thing. So they get used to each other again, slowly. And meanwhile, she's like, fine. Fine. You know, fine. She kind of gets that kind of attitude going on, which is good for her. Meanwhile, in the course of all this, there's the heir to her father's house. I don't know, some cousin, because of course it's a cousin. Some cousin has shown up in her life. And her cousin, that's not really visible. Her cousin is like, damn, she's cute. I like her. Who is that girl? And she's like, my name's Anne Elliot. And he's like, oh, I think we're cousins. And you know what that means? Marriageable material. Yeah. And she's like, I don't really know you, but I really do love my house. Which, of course, if I was wife of, I'd get to keep. And it is super nice that somebody finds me attractive and nice. That is pretty great. And also, I like your manners. And I don't know, you're kind of hot too. There's a lot of things going on. That's like 4 things that actually are, you know, much better than, I mean, that's kind of far gone. I mean, it's not like love or anything, but, you know, that's actually far ahead of many society marriages that get discussed during the course of many Jane Austen, you know, books and stuff like that. So that's pretty good. And so, you know, as as time goes on, her color improves and she's looking a little bit hotter. Meanwhile, he may be feeling a little, hey, about the fact that somebody is noticing Anne who isn't him. So he's a little bit like about it, which is like, you know what? Cry me a little river. What's that? Oh, the world's tiniest violin. Yeah. Whatever. They all go to the seaside, because that's something you do. I don't know, maybe, is it Bath? Is it Lyme? One of those places in England that was very popular for people to go to. Bath was a place where you drank like water from spigots, because it was supposed to be healing. It's filled with like sulfur or something like that. I don't know. Lyme has cliffs, I believe, that are made of limestone. One of those two places Jane Austen was super fond of, and one of them she hated. And I don't remember which, because that's responsible storytelling. So, whichever one they went to was the one she's super fond of. And as they're going along, it was all of them. Well, not him. Let's get rid of him. But Sailor Dude, Anne Elliot. Oh, and who's this? Impetuous girl who knows her own mind. They all go. It's a big party. Maybe he was there. I don't remember. Anyway. There they are. It's a very nice trip. And they're visiting, like, they visit some old friends of, his, showcasing a happy marriage, like a happy sailor marriage, where, they're, my mother and father were honest though poor. They're living in a tiny house, and there's a faint suggestion that, maybe he should be getting a little hint of that's maybe why her family suggested that it would be a bad idea for her to marry, because that would have been maybe the life that they would have led. Though at the same time, like, the reader should maybe get a message, like the reader of the time should maybe get a message. It's like, well, does it really matter? Because they have love. So if they have love, it doesn't really matter how tiny or poor you are, because, it makes... Anyway. We're not telling that story. I mean, we are telling that story, but that's not the point. The point is, so, no. They're walking along the cliffs. Or a bridge. No, it's a wall. They're walking along a wall. And, impetuous girl. She's like, I want to jump off the wall down these steps, because it's super fun, and have you catch me. And he's like, I'll do that. That's fine. And she's like, cool, I'm gonna do it. And he's like, okay. And she's like, that was super fun. I'm gonna do it again. And she's okay. Woo! And he's like, okay, that's fun. We should be done now though, because it's a little dangerous. And she's like, okay, but I know my own mind, so I'm gonna do it again. And he's like, okay, but no, don't do that. And she's like, okay, did you notice the part where I dropped it and he wasn't actually there to catch her? That's because it was in the book. In the book, she falls, bonk, and her head cracks on the ground. And there's literally a part where, like, everybody comes to her aid, and there are some fishermen or something like that who also gather around because they want to see the sight of, like, a young, hot lady unconscious. And I'm like, Jane Austen, really? Really, Jane Austen? What do you picture in your head? You're like, look at that girl, unconscious. Anyway. Everybody's freaking out. Dude's freaking out. She's unconscious, so she's not freaking out, but she's kind of freaking out. The sister's freaking out. She's falling into her own faint. Everybody, because there's like 5 other people. Ah. The only person not freaking out is Anne Elliot, because she is older and more mature. And she's been prepared for this kind of thing. She knows what's up. She knows her own mind, but in a more mature way. Ish. She's had time to kind of get into a groove. And so she can say things like, okay, everybody, you, go get a doctor. You, pick her up and take her to your friend's house. Get a bed there. You, do something about that unconscious girl who's fallen into a faint. That's weird. You, random fishermen who are staring at stuff. Stop it, go away. Everybody, we can do stuff. He, who has been freaking out and feeling guilty, and freaking out, mostly freaking out, he's like, yes, I will go get a doctor. That's a great idea. I'm gonna go do that. Meanwhile, other people take, what's their head over to, the family, the poor people, the sailor poor people, and so on. Anne, goes and starts being a nurse to this girl, and so that happens for a while. She's all right, by the way. It doesn't really matter. He looks at the whole situation. He has some deep thoughts about this, which you should, because you've kind of screwed this up. He looks at all this. He thinks deep and hard. He thinks to himself, maybe being persuaded sometimes is a good idea. You think, dude? And then he's like, look at Anne. Anne, meanwhile, is like looking over here, not paying attention because she's busy doing other stuff, more important stuff, like anything. She really doesn't care anymore. She kind of got over him, which is good because he was kind of being a dick. She's over him. She has other dudes on the horizon. Bro right here. She's busy nursing this person. She's got stuff going on. She doesn't need to bother with that anymore. She's just glad that maybe it's a friendship. Like, whatever. Doesn't care. He cares. Maybe persuasion is nice sometimes. Look at Anne. She's awfully pretty. I still love her. She can nurse people. She can even nurse her rival. Not your rival, dude. Yeah, that's taken a little far. But whatever. She's so accomplished. But wait. I can't tell Anne of my love. Why is that? Because back in the day, if there was certain, if you asked a girl to marry you, which, as I recall, he hadn't, but if you'd given the impression you'd asked a girl to marry you, or if there was any kind of idea that that was going to happen, like marriage was going to happen, for the girls, it was kind of a social thing, but kind of for the girls' protection, the dude was not allowed to break it off without having major social ramifications. I believe the popular term is being a dick to everybody. So basically, if he wanted to, he'd been kind of being very particular about his interest in this girl. Everybody knew he was going to marry her, including her. So even though he was admitting now that he was still in love with Anne, he had just been really pissy about the fact that Anne had broken his heart before. he couldn't do anything about it because there was still this girl. If he wanted to do something with it, this girl would have to break it off with him, which wasn't going to happen because he was a catch. So he was kind of, oh, it's like, well, too bad because you've been a jerk this entire book. Okay, I'm really, really mean to him, but I love him, so sorry. Anyway, time passes. They all have to go back home eventually because, you know, Anne has a life back home. She doesn't hear much. She gets letters about, not from him, but, you know, about her, about whatever. But wait. There's another dude who lives in the house with the other sailor people. He was brokenhearted because the girl that he loved, it was the sister of the poor people, had died while he was at sea. So he was of a very melancholy persuasion. He read a lot of poetry. And then after she fell off a wall and she was convalescing, they read a lot of poetry together. And it is revealed that they fall in love. And so she releases him. Now he is free to love where he wants. Great! Now he can ask Anne to say, do you still love me? Oh, that's so great. Oh, but wait. Oh, but wait. What's going on with Anne? What's that? Oh, Anne already has somebody who's interested in her, and maybe she's interested back, because she's busy thinking that, they're just over. So. But here's the thing. Turns out Bro here, well, he does like Anne, kind of a rapscallion. I like the word rapscallion. He, oh, I think I broke that. Oh boy, okay. He, may have some, like, ladies on the side, and may have a lot of debts, and is kind of just, you know, he likes her, but maybe he kind of doesn't like the rest of her family. So she's like, oh, bro, and he's like, alright. And he leaves the scene. So he's gone. He's like, oh! And she's like, alright. Because on the grand scale of shit that's happened to her, it's nothing. And also, she still doesn't know about him. That he's like, which comes to the grand reveal, the last scene. Which I love. There they are. They're in a room. He thinks that maybe she's brokenhearted about this whole thing. He's busy writing letters or some shit. And somebody's like, oh, it's too bad that you're oh, it's too bad that that guy broke your heart and left you. That's a real bummer. And Anne's like, yeah, he didn't break my heart. I don't really care. Like, whatevs. He's like, so he's like, I have to write a letter. I have to write a letter right now. I have to write a letter. I have to write a letter. Excuse me. I have to write a letter. And then he legit hides the letter for a second. He's like, I gotta go. I gotta go. I have to leave. And he leaves the room. And he's like, oh shit, I forgot my gloves. I'll just get my gloves. He picks up the letter he hid before and drops it in Anne's lap. And Anne's like, the fuck is this? So he looks at her and he like gives her like a look. He's like, and then he leaves. And then she like opens the letter, and I kid you not, it says like, she might as well open it, and it says like, do you like me? Circle yes, no. If yes, go outside and meet me on the high street. And she's like, I gotta go. I gotta go. I have to leave. I have to go now. I have to go. outside. I have to go on a walk right now. I have to leave. I have to go now. And somebody's like, I will totally go with you. And she's like, that is fine. I don't need any. And they're like, I will totally go with you. It's totally fine. And she's like, fine, but we have to go now. We have to go right now. Leaving. And they're like, okay. And so, and we're going to use this again, use the other chin. And so she's like, okay, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Come on. Let's. And so they go up the high street. And there he is. There he is. And, you know, he's like, hello, Anne. And you? Hi. And she's like, hi. And this dude is like, oh, good, hi. I'm so glad you're here. I really wanted to go shopping. So would you mind walking in? She really wanted to go on a walk. I don't know why. But do you mind? And he's like, yes. I am totally fine with walking Anne. That is fine. So this guy's like, great. And wanders off. There they are. And they just kind of start walking. And he's like, BTW, I am super in love with you. Still. And she's like, that's pretty good, because I am still super in love with you. And he's like, good. And she's like, good. And then they get married. The end. It is like the best. So that's how, that's the book of Persuasion. And that's how Anne Elliot starts the book being, you know, kind of like, I will do the right thing and it'll turn out okay. It doesn't turn out okay. But she ends it being super like, I will take charge, I will do stuff, and it turns out well. And the entire time, there are like people doing like things happening, and she spends the whole time being like, oh my god, you are so stupid. Which is basically what we spend most of our time thinking in our day-to-day lives. So Anne speaks deeply to me on a soul level. And I think everybody should really read Persuasion, and I really, really hope that we get a full-length movie sometime. Like 20 hours worth of Persuasion, maybe with voiceovers. Idris Elba should play her, or maybe Samuel L. Jackson having like the voiceover. That'd be amazing. Bye.